scientific papers on technology transfer and intellectual property. And I will give the word to my colleague, Tomasz Lutman, who will lead this session. Tomasz.
Thank you, Robert. So in next 1.5 hours, we will hear about 12 papers on technology transfer. You can read also the full versions of these papers later on our webpage. So we will start with a contribution from Marian Liban. So Marian, please, I hand over the word to you.
Hello to everybody. Just a second to share my screen. Oh, could you stop sharing another screen? Okay. So my presentation will be similar to the previous key topic presentation, because the topic is almost the same about the technology transfer fund, probably a bit more from the view of research organizations. So commercialization gap between the laboratory and the market is a commercialization gap that has to be bridged to successfully put the discovery on the market as a product or a service. However, academic research is often considered to be too new or too high risk to be transferred out of the research laboratory and financed by the traditional investors. So venture capital is usually available to startups or other young companies that show potential for long-term growth, but not for bridging the commercialization gap. Another view, the commercialization gaps is also called the technological valley of death, because many new technologies reach TRLs 4 to 6 and die there. VC funds with private equity participation do not typically invest in bridging the valley of death. Special technology transfer funds are needed to financially support the development of discoveries from TRL 4 to TRL 6. The European Investment Fund is a crucial player, often taking the role as a lead investor in technology transfer funds. Slovenia's innovation performance fell from 2012 to 2018. If we look at the graph, the colored column shows countries' performance in 2019, then the horizontal hyphens show performance in 2018 relative to that of the 2012, and gray columns show countries' performance relative to that of the EU 2012. So we see that Slovenia fell 6 places, and additionally 1 extra place in 2019, and went from strong innovators to moderate followers. The dashed line on the diagram are just threshold for dividing strong innovators, leaders, and moderate innovators. Performance trend of European members in the field of innovations. If you look at the graph, we see that the trend shows an even more worrying picture, as Slovenia is the only slightly below average in terms of results. But if we but the most negative trend of all European Union countries. So the trend is really negative. Croatia is positioned slightly worse than Slovenia, but its development innovation trend is average compared to the other European countries. So the strong European, Slovenian, and Croatian research results is currently not translated into innovation due to the lack of the breakthrough innovations that create new markets. So in Slovenia, as well as in Croatia, we have publications as results of research work, but these results are not transferred to the market in the same level. Technology funds founded by the European Investment Fund between 2006 and 2020. So 48 technology transfer funds was funded by the European Investment Fund in this time period. There are very few other technology transfer funds in Europe not funded by the EIF, if any. If we look at the graph, we saw that the France has the highest number of TT funds, but the Italy has the latest growth of the TT funds. So Central and this European technology transfer platform is the, as we heard before, is the first national platform for technology transfer ever launched in European Union and is intended for Slovenia and Croatia. CETT has been established by European Investment Fund, Seed Banka, and the Bank for Croatian and Development of Croatia. 40 million will be available for investment. It's a great opportunity for technology transfer for public research organization to industry in both countries. The new platform will also offer funding in early stage of TRL development. A significant share of funding will also go to the pre-incorporated phase project that are still within the public research organization and preparing to spin off into new startups. Expected results are 350 patent applications and 100 spin-off companies in next 5 years. From our point of view, from this public research organization, we also expect that that platform will play a very important role in reversing the negative innovation trend into a positive one, especially in Slovenia, where the negative trend is really crucial. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, Marina, thank you for your presentation. Now I'd like to invite Marina Trovac for the next presentation.
Thank you, Tomasz. I'm just sharing the screen. Do you see it as a, okay. So I am going to talk about the proof of concept cases at the Joseph Stefan Institute in 2020-2021. Here are some background information. The Joseph Stefan Institute in 1998, the Internal Employment Related Innovation Act was implemented, and at the same time also the Innovation Fund has been created. The goal of the Innovation Fund is to enable the project to increase their technology readiness level, to increase the maturity and attraction towards the potential customers and external financing, and to establish partnerships with the industry. It is important to mention that the fund of the Center for Technology Transfer and Innovation is being filled only from the incomings from the commercialized intellectual property. In the last 2 years, we have published 2 internal calls and have been financing in 2026 projects, and in 2021, 5 Joseph Stefan Institute proof of concept projects. Here are some outcomes or the statistics for those 11 projects. Here you can see the blue points are the starting TRL points of individual projects and their expected rise of TRL level through those through the work that they plan to do with the proof of concept funding. So for the first project, for example, we can see they plan to rise from TRL 3 to TRL 7, the next one from 3 to 5, and so on. The 4 projects, we don't have the results for all the projects yet. For the last 4, the expected TRL is missing. But in general, you can see the rise of TRLs. It is interesting to see how the project, the technological areas of the researchers or the fundamental science where the researchers work is affecting the market, or what markets are they targeting. You are familiar, probably the majority of you is familiar with the main research areas of the Institute. So physics, chemistry, biochemistry, new materials, environment, electronics, and information technologies. So as you can see, the proof of concept projects originating from physics research departments are targeting with their inventions the markets of laboratory equipment, research equipment, and the different industrial markets. Proof of concept projects from the chemistry and biochemistry field are targeting again laboratory equipment, research equipment, industry, different industries, and ICT. Researchers from the ICT departments are targeting research equipment, health, medical sector, media, strategy, finances, and events sectors. 3 out of 11 teams are seriously considering to establish the spin-out company. The rest wishes to license out the technology. We have grouped the expected outcomes of the projects in 4 main groups. So within 7 projects, the developing of the prototype has been foreseen. 4 are planning to do the testing in a lab. 9 testing with industry or potential users, and 7 preparing different kind of support documentation that has to deal with the legislation and similar requirements or IP documentation. The areas where we see the further progress is needed, also beyond the existing proof of concept funding, the teams for sure need additional team members with expertise also in the business plan development, marketing, technology transfer, certification, and this is relevant for all the 11 projects. Then probably IP in some cases has to be further defined. The IP management plan has to be developed, and researchers, relationships between researchers themselves and with host organizations has to be arranged. In some cases also key markets have to be better defined, and probably some markets that are now still on the list of potential markets will be at the later stages abandoned. And of course, further financing will be acquired, needs to be acquired also from external sources. And the last point that I want to talk about is what we have learned from those 11 projects and from the internal calls that we published. It is really necessary to have proof of concept funds available at the institutional level and on the national level. The internal funds are very welcomed by the researchers because the application is very simple, the results are available soon, and the support regarding the project formalities is in-house. Through the calls and through the cooperation with the teams, we as Center for Technology Transfer and Innovation also get additional insights into the research activities of research departments, and we can offer our assistance to those new to those teams. It is necessary that the teams not only get the funding, but also our support in terms of IP, further financing possibilities, connecting with industrial partners, project preparations for external calls and similar. Market assessments and defining the target markets are crucial, and the feedback from industrial partners are very valuable. The teams are in most cases composed of experts from natural science and engineering, so it's very important to connect them also with the experts from human society, economics as soon as possible in order to develop their products and services based also on the market needs. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Marietta. We are about a bit of short of time, so if there are any questions, maybe in the chat, Marietta is happy to answer them. Now I'd like to invite also the next presenters, Polka Junic and Marta Klanšek-Gunde. Can you please share your screen?
Good afternoon. Can you see it?
Yes, in the small mode. If you can click on the full screen, this will be nice for the viewers. Okay, great. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. In this short presentation, we will give you a summary of the available national sources of finance and support, which are available to spin-out companies. So we will look at what they offer and point out the missing parts essential for spin-out companies' growth. The IP created at public research institutions can be licensed or sold to a spin-out company. The company is wholly owned by investors, of which at least one of them is a researcher in an employment relationship at the PRO. So if you are a co-owner of a spin-out company or are considering to establish one, you have the following possibilities. The grants. The most suitable grants for spin-outs are the one called by larger EU initiative and independent bodies, such as EIT, which set up various knowledge and innovation communities. However, such grants do not include the support for raising the technology level. Then we have the subsidies, loans, guarantees, and equity. These funds are mainly managed by the Slovenian Enterprise Fund and the Seed Bank. The SE program, Young Enterprises, which is offered to companies younger than 5 years, has in its scope few supports available in regard to the company's stage of development. The most adequate for spin-outs is the SEF Twin. However, it does not cover the cost for rental of laboratory space, materials, or special equipment. So the program mainly includes SMEs with interesting but technologically relatively simple products. Another instrument is in form of vouchers, such as small value initiative, which enable the financing of, for example, IP protection, certificates of quality, internationalization costs, and so on. The seed bank FANCA funds includes many repayable forms of financing, which are extremely welcome at later stages of development, especially after reaching tier L9. Then we have also the awards, which are lower financial supports possible to be obtained through innovative prizes. They are important to raise awareness of the novelty and publicize the spin-out company. But too early notes could also mean too much of a push in particular direction that could become a sidetrack. Then we also have benefits. So according to the National Corporate Income Tax Act, it is possible to claim corporate income tax deduction for investment in research and development at 40% of the amount invested. These benefits do not include the investments made with the help of the project, not even the part in which the company have to participate. Then are also available some non-financial forms of state aid, which can be in the form of technical assistance, advice, mentoring, guidance, and so on. So you can find more information about the finances and support in the contribution, or you can turn to your technology transfer office. At this point, I would like to hand over to Marta.
Hello, I am unmuted now. Thank you very much for Vojka for this presentation. So I will continue here because I have some experiences with a spin-out company, which is at the National Institute of Chemistry. So we were founded in 2017, and we were going through all these obstacles and beneficial supports which were presented by Vojka. So I can say you what is missing and how it can be solved. The first group is venture capital, which is found along the lines with the European Innovation Council. This is European Innovation Council has good funding opportunities, which are in different categories as Pathfinder, Transition Accelerator, Business Acceleration Service, and so forth. So it can help you to develop to find a path to transition, to go through transition to a company which is really which really knows what to do, and then how to accelerate to reach the market. We are trusting in the new legal basis. It is our new Research and Innovation Act, which is promising while it for the first time involves and target very precisely as much as possible at current situation, also the innovation part. Not only the research, but also the innovation. So we hope that it will define better this part of the work. Then to realize what will be in this innovation, in this legal basis, new act, we'll need coordinated action and support from our national funders, which are Research Agency of Slovenia, Spirit, Slovenian Enterprise Fund, and all other. So they will, I hope so, they will join their effort and ideas to get for best funding opportunities. This will be, it is urgently needed for project with higher TRLs from development to the innovation, is according to the scheme which is from European Innovation Council. What is the goal for the innovation project at our national research agency? This is the ideas I have collected. So there should be a new funding instrument within our agency with similar values as the proof of concept at European Research Council for project which has been already founded as the basic research. So this project should have some benefits because we have invested in the basic research and now we should invest also to continue this research forward. So for this reason, the innovation project that have been already founded by the agency within the framework of research project should be beneficial in those calls. Here, the central role of spin-out companies must be seen. And what is the budget? The size of the budget must be comparable to current research agency project, but possibly based on actual cost, not as it is now in the they are all the same, if it is possible. So I hope so. There are also other possibilities. Adopting the already existing financial initiative to support SMEs with more complex need. I point out here the complex need because according to our experiences at our spin-out company, there are a lot of opportunities, but there are small money which cannot easily be adopted for laboratory works, where you need a special equipment, special people with very precise knowledge, and so on and so on. So these are the complex needs. This is not only the computer which is needed for the IT companies. Then it is adoption of the existing financial initiative to support SMEs with those needs. So not only, so it must be included that you need laboratory. It is not an office room, it is laboratory with special needs. So the program Young Enterprises, but Slovenian Enterprise Fund could make some changes to support this kind of SMEs with these complex needs. And there are also higher tax deductions for investment, especially for special equipment which are needed. We cannot hire those equipment at the institute because the institute do not have equipment to prepare larger quantities of materials as we need. So these are the my thinking. What is missing to make it better here? Thank you. If are there any questions, I will be happy to answer. And also Wojka.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. All participants are kindly invited to share the questions in the chat. And now I'd like to invite Urška Fritz to present her paper on technology transfer.
Hello to everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like to present an overview about software protection and licensing challenges in Europe.
Urška, sorry to interrupt you. Can you switch on the full screen? Maybe it will be easier to see for the participants.
So now we can see the PDF presentation.
Yeah.
It is very well seen already.
Okay, then we can continue.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, with the transition of innovation to the digital sphere, software has become an important part of contemporary inventions and creations, and it is also an extremely important part of intellectual property, of course, in Slovenia and in Europe. The software protection in the European Union, that is in Europe, not considered fully arranged, and computer scientists face a number of challenges when it comes to exploiting intellectual property rights in software. The European Patent Convention stipulates that programs for computers are not regarded as inventions, and also European Patent Convention excludes computer programs from patentability. And software that does not demonstrate a technical contribution can only be protected by copyright, which does not protect ideas. And there is also important, although the European Patent Convention excludes computer programs from patentability, to the extent that the patent application relates to a computer program as such, this is interpreted to mean that any invention that makes a non-obvious technical contribution or solves a technical problem in a non-obvious way is patentable, even if the technical problem can be solved by running a computer program. Today, the three largest patent offices in the world, so in the European Union, in the United States, and in Japan, allow patenting of software. So although there are differences in the criteria they use when accepting applications. For the example, in the USA, all new and non-obvious software that produces a useful material and tangible result is eligible for patent protection. Whereas in Europe, the technical contribution of the invention must be defined as described. Also applies to Slovenia. Licensing plays an essential role in creating value through management of intellectual property associated with software development. And business models are formalized in a contract. So usually in the form of licensing agreements, which impose specific rules of use on third parties who intend to exploit the software. In this figure, we can see some of typical software licensing models. So free and open source software rights include use, inspection, and modification and distribution of modified and also unmodified copies. They typically allow it to be used for any purpose without restriction. And when the code is used and modified, it requires that the modified code is made available again under the same conditions. Two basic issues should be addressed in the assessment and planning process. So the first question is, why was the software created? And the second question is, how was the software developed? However, if the software is protected exclusively by copyright, it is possible to easily circumvent all prior rights as long as we have access to the source code. So the same idea can simply be implemented in another source code. And for the conclusion, the situation of software in the European arena can still be considered as neither resolved nor uncertain in legal terms, thus raising a number of open questions and, of course, opportunities for our further work. And in the end, we propose that regular reflection among computer scientists within public research organizations is facilitated on a new, marketable software code, that verification is introduced to any technical contribution. And of course, that invention based on the software code is registered accordingly. Thank you for your attention. This is all from my side.
Okay, thank you, Urška, for this nice presentation. Do we have any questions? Okay, no, then we can continue with the next presentation by Levin Pal. Levin, can you please share your screen?
Excuse me, may I comment something?
Yes.
Hi, it's Duško. We had a discussion and we had an arrangement and I would have this presentation instead, and Levin would have one later.
Okay, okay.
If I may.
Duško, of course, please go ahead.
Okay, so are you seeing the presentation?
Yes, yes, we can see it nicely.
Okay, we can also hear me, that's fine. So thank you. I would like to mention that maybe in the introduction how to fit my presentation into the theme of the ongoing conference, because we've heard a lot about the future of TT funding, the Central Eastern European platform, the proof of concept fund, the various supports to spinouts. And they all have to deal with the theme of supporting technology transfer. And another way to support tech transfer activities is EU projects that I will briefly describe now. So the EU projects of the Central Smart Technology Transfer. Just a second. Do you see the next slide?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So EU projects, the challenge or the question with regards to EU projects are how to map them to technology transfer activities, because often EU projects don't deal directly with that. So to demonstrate, here are some of the projects in recent years that we at the CTT have had and worked on. And one way to group them would be to say what their goal is. And in the upper right side, you have projects, they're all concerned in one way or another support to small to medium sized enterprises, SMEs. And in the upper right corner, you have, we've had projects that connect SMEs to various services such as creative industries and collaborative economy and so on. So moving downwards, we have had projects that have helped SMEs educate or raise awareness about IP management and access to finance, various financial instruments that are out there. And in the top left corner, we have the projects that are most closely related, so to speak, to technology transfer, because they connect companies to research institutions, and that's where we want the technology transfer to take place. So if we imagine a pathway of an SME from idea to the market, so to speak, the pathway of innovation, we can imagine a few steps in there. We can imagine a company needs to define a technological challenge. A company may make use of a existing platform to register and find a matching partner. The company may further define intellectual property and find ways to look for access to finance, financial instruments. Furthermore, the company may make use of platforms to get access to research equipment that it doesn't have in research organizations. And finally, what is the peak it would be to have access to innovative collaboration, which is to actually make contact and jointly develop something with research organizations. So if we list our projects that we've had, we will not go into details of which project did, but if we align our projects to this pathway, what we get is an image that shows that some of the projects cover the entire pathway, whereas other cover only maybe a single or two of steps in this journey. But this is to say that certain projects may not look or seem important for technology transfer in its entirety, but they do have an important role because they do align, they do matter for a certain step taken in the company's journey, and therefore innovation, which is the ultimate goal of technology transfer, is achieved. And finally, this is the last image, so no need to worry about being very long. We can also distribute these projects along a sort of landscape of innovation, if you will. On one side, we have the role in innovation from indirect to direct. So certain projects are more or less educational, raising awareness about certain areas of technologies transfer, whereas other projects moving from left to the far right. So on the far right are those that involve direct contact between companies and research institutions, and those are the ones that we are most gunning for. And looking at it vertically, we can see also we can distribute the projects in terms of researcher involvement, and we are certainly preferring the projects that have most of that. So in this distribution graph, the project that we had most preferable to align to the tech transfer process would be the ones in the far upper right corner. So this is just one way for us to also evaluate our own projects and sort of plan to what types of projects we're looking for. So to conclude, there is a distinction between different projects. They cover different parts of the SME's journey to innovation, but they all contribute to it, and as such represent another mechanism of financing tech transfer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Duško, for a nice presentation. Now I'd like to invite Bojan Čudić to share his screen and presentation.
Hello to everyone. Do you see my presentation?
No, not yet. Duško, can you please stop sharing? Okay. Now, Mr. Čudić, can you share your screen?
Just a second.
No, thanks.
Is now okay?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Now?
No.
Still not.
Bojan, maybe I can share your presentation.
That would be useful. Thank you.
Can you see it?
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you, friends. In our research paper, we investigated work of digital innovation hubs in the region of Western Balkan. Digital innovation hubs in Europe are created to support the digital transformation of small and medium enterprises. And now the network of this is in the process of establishing throughout Europe. Also, Western Balkan countries are involved in this process. At the beginning of 2020, there were 24 registered DIHs in the region. And through this paper, we investigated the work of them in 5 countries, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. And there are just several research papers that investigate work of DIHs in Europe. Especially, there is a lack of similar papers dedicated to this region, and we found quite strong support for different institutions in this process of researching. And based on the contacts with those 24 DIHs, we realized that we have only 14 DIHs that are fully operational, that they have capacities to provide support to SMEs. Among these 14, we found only 5 that have similar capacities of DIHs that operates in Europe. And through the interviews and this process of investigating their work, we realized that they mostly provide supports in some basic supports to companies, trainings related to business plans, business development, and they provide contacts with different business supporting organizations in region and Europe. But what's the most important, they lack with the support in digital transformation of companies, and they lack other specialized services, for example, intellectual property rights, access to finance, and similar like specialized services, which should be their main task. That's like a most important conclusion, but we found also that this concept of networking and cooperation between DIHs supports interregional and international cooperation that is of great importance for Western Balkan region, which had many conflicts in the past. And the last thing that I would like to mention, that DIHs are complementary with services that are provided by other business support, international business support organization, for example, Enterprise Europe Network. And I would like to say in the end that this concept of cooperation with international business support organization, and especially organizations that are supported by European Commission, are valuable for the whole Western Balkan region. Thank you. That was like a brief presentation. If you have any questions, I would like to. Yeah.
Thanks to you. If anyone has questions.
Yes, just a short one.
Okay.
Bojan, I would like to ask, what are the attributes of successful DIH in the region?
Yeah, success stories. I would like to mention DIH that work operates in Belgrade. It is established by the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and which is led by Mr. Kosta Jovanovic. Why I choose this example? Because they have concrete services which they provide to companies in the field of digital transformation. Also, other services in which are included professors from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and also they are involved in the two Horizon 2020 programs, through which they also provide financial support grants for companies mainly in Serbia, and they connect that finance and expertal support to companies, and with companies as beneficiary, they have concrete results, and that should be example for other DIHs in the region.
Okay, thank you. France, can you please stop sharing the screen? Now I'd like to invite Levin Pal to present his paper.
Well, hello everybody. Just a moment so that I will be able to share the screen. Do you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I will just put it into the presentation mode. Okay, so I will be talking about the European industrial strategy as a great opportunity to strengthen the role of technology transfer offices. So on the left side of this slide, you can see industrial ecosystems as they were defined by European industrial strategy. And on the right side, you can see some sector groups that are defined by Enterprise Europe Network. And sector groups are supposed to provide support to industrial ecosystems. So, of course, we are very interested into looking for the interactions between these ecosystems and sectors, because the main research fields of our institutes are covered by the sector groups and, of course, are applicable in industrial ecosystems. And we can also see that for the most industrial ecosystems, you can find the corresponding sector groups. But there are some sector groups that don't have a corresponding industrial ecosystem. And we were wondering, why is that so? So we tried to answer this question, and we did an analysis of biochem-tech profiles. So we did an analysis on the example of biochem-tech sector group in terms of technology, market, and client outreach. We basically analyzed the database of all the profiles that were published in Enterprise Europe Network and were meant to be disseminated within the biochem-tech sector. So here are the results. On the left side, you can see the list of most often occurring technological keywords, and on the right side, you can see the list of the market keywords. And it is quite easy to connect the technology keywords with some names of the sectors, for example, materials, biotechnology, chemistry, ICT, and so on. While it is also quite easy to connect the names of technology keywords with some industrial ecosystems. So it is clear that the names of some sector groups originate from the technologies, not from their market applications. And this is actually not surprising, because some sectors are actually belonging to advanced technologies for industry, which are by their nature strongly intertwined, have applications in different markets, and they appear in several industrial ecosystems substantially. So we can easily put some of the sector groups which are connected to advanced technologies for industry in the center of the industrial ecosystems as they are to be interacted with all the industrial ecosystems. In addition to that, there are also two sectors, ICT and environment, that are responsible for digitalization and sustainability, and they should also be put in the center of these industrial ecosystems, as they will have to interact with each and every industrial ecosystem in the future, or they're already doing that also now. And we believe that this is actually a great opportunity for technology transfer offices, because the need for digitalization and sustainability is likely to arise in companies, and this should positively influence the technological demand for digital and environmental solutions at companies. So the TTOs should here play the key role in establishing the collaboration and seeking for national and European funding for these collaborations. Furthermore, when we analyzed the clients of Biochemtech sector group, we found out that 1/3 of the clients are research organizations, while all the rest clients are actually more or less companies. So this is also good news for technology transfer offices. But as you can see on the right side, here is a graphical representation of number of business offer, business requests, technology offers, and technology requests. You can see that the amount of offers is much higher as compared to requests. And in terms of technology offers and technology requests, this is actually the bottleneck that is disabling successful technology transfer. So is it a bottleneck, or maybe it is a great opportunity given the situation with sustainability and digitalization? And we believe that the technology transfer offices should be now more focused to active searching and identifying the research and development topics in companies, and establishing research and development collaboration based on the interest of companies, and of course seeking for finance in the framework of national and European projects for digitalization and sustainability to support the connection of public research organizations and companies. So with this, I would like to conclude and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Levin. Are there any questions? Okay, no, then we will continue with the presentation of David Kozman. Levin, can you stop sharing, please?
Yes, okay, done.
And we can continue. Now we can see your presentation.
Perfect. I hope you can also hear me.
Yes, very well.
Okay. Let me just make some space on my screen then. So, hello everyone. David Kozman is my name. I work at the Department of Environmental Sciences at JSI. And let me start with a sort of a disclaimer. The topic that I'm addressing in this presentation might be a little bit off topic for this type of session, but I will leave this for you to decide. Namely, I will speak about knowledge generation in the citizen science activities based on some experience with the specific project and the tools that were made within this project for the generation of knowledge. I mentioned the word citizen science. So let's start with some background, what actually citizen science is. Usually it's defined quite straightforward, and it's defined as engagement of general people, the non-professionals in any type of scientific research activities. But this level of involvement can vary a lot. It can be from really simple or passive one, where people are involved in, for instance, classification or transcription of data, or they would go and gather data. In this case, we do not expect any IP issues to occur, perhaps with some copyright in texts and photographs that are produced. Then sometimes participants, they act as research subject. In this case, we are dealing with ethical issues and privacy issues. But lately, more and more people are also involved in solving of the problems, sharing of ideas, defining research questions, and so on. And then with this, the level of potential IP question in terms of authorship, inventorship, of course, will arise. And this is something that we are stimulating a lot. And this is very much what we are doing within the project called Cities Health, which is still an ongoing project at our department. And we don't have time to go into details, but basically what we are trying to achieve it's a project dealing with noise and epidemiology, and where we would like to engage people as much as possible in all 4 methodological phases of the project, starting with the identification, when people collaborated in mapping of the concerns and we were mapping their interests. And based on that, we defined the research questions. Then they were involved in the design of the data collection tools and protocols. Then we had a group of people that acted as volunteers in data collection campaign. And now we are entering the last phase, which we call action phase. And we are about to evaluate the results and come with some meaningful outcomes. So what actually people and what we were doing in this project, so we tried to answer the overall research question, which is how do the quality of the living environment with the focus on noise and the living habits affect the mental health and well-being of individuals. So it was quite a broad overall research question. We had around 50 participants from the municipality of Ljubljana that participated from October last year to April this year. Usually they were involved for 7 to 14 days, and they were carrying all sorts of tools, mobile applications, answering questionnaires that were triggered automatically, performing measurements of noise, wearing physical activity trackers, and so on. Again, we don't have time to go into details, but they were collecting altogether 75 different variables, which resulted in over 50,000 data points. So what to do with all this data, how to extract knowledge? Of course, at least 2 options are there. We can do it at the community level, and this is something we researchers are usually interested in, to extract some universal general knowledge. But with this type of approach, there is also individual level of data where people are interested usually in their own data. And in this presentation, we argue, and based on our experience gained so far, that like non-professionals, they don't have a knowledge, experience in handling, analyzing, digesting the information and data and so on. So for these purposes, we developed a web-based application where people, they can go and log in and access the data information that they gathered. It's in a shape of a web page done within the R programming language. And we were using the step-by-step approach, meaning that we were adding the levels of analytical complexity. So what they can find here, it's written firstly, of course, in Slovene, on the first page, what is the structure of the tool. But here basically what can get is the general overview of the activities. Then they have access to the raw data. Some of the data is pre-treated for them, and then the main part are different analytical tools that they can use. And I will walk you through this very briefly. So in the first step, they can remind themselves about what they were doing, which activities they were doing, when this was happening. They have all the variables clearly explained, and they can see some basic description and the ranges of the values obtained. They have the help, how to use the tool, and so on. Then part of the data, as mentioned, is partly pre-treated, so they don't have to bother with that. For instance, the geospatial context where they were moving and where they were performing the measurements, then overlaid on the already existing information such as air quality maps and strategic noise maps. They can find the results of the overall sleep quality evaluation, or they can play with the special tool which is there to see whether they were having some kind of mood changes from day to day and similar. The main part, as mentioned, are different analytical tools. Just two examples shown here. They can choose and select any out of the 75 variables they're familiar with, and they can start searching for some information, for some knowledge, for some patterns, like in the upper example, how the noise values are distributed according to the activities they were engaged in a form of a box plot, or in a bit more complicated manner in a form of a scatter plot with some correlations and dots covered according to the different days of the day. What is shown here actually is how the cognitive performance is affected by noise or vice versa. So they can do whatever, and this tool enables them to really dig into their own data, because in a way they're only ones, or they know the best what they were doing and how to interpret the data. And with this type of tool, this is then available to them. So far we also obtain some feedback from the actual users, and what we can see is that more lay volunteers, they show interest primarily in their own data because they would like to see how much they were exposed, and this is mainly their primary interest. But then we have some more experienced volunteers that also recognize some added value of such tools, and they were suggesting to extend some of the features or to use it for some kind of environmental inspection purposes and so on. Like I said, we are still in the middle of the project. What still needs to be done is the proper evaluation of the outcomes, where we are also try to gain a feedback of participants, and especially we would like to see whether they recognize that what they were contributing has some IP value there. My so far impression is that people in general, they are not aware of this, and that they should be included either as co-authors of scientific journals and so on. But so far, this tool proved to be a quite promising solution if we compare it with some similar activities, again, with the citizen science type of work from the past, because, as I already said, you really can actively involve people also in the data analysis. They get the personalized experience. It's easy to engage and maintain the motivation in this way. And of course, individual can get a very valuable information about the general habits and the quality of life in this case. This is all from my side. Thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer some potential questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. There are any questions? Okay, then we would continue with the next presentation by Rimzo Dedic. Kozman, can you please stop sharing the screen?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Do you hear me and do you see my presentation?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our paper is application of 3D printing, reverse engineering, and metrology. Here is our content. Learning factory at our Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Computing and Electrical Engineering has the basic goal to enabling standards to experience many problems that will be present in the production facilities where they should be operating. At the same time, the factory also provides engineers from the local companies with the opportunity to get acquainted with new technologies that were not present at the time where they studied. The same goals are achieved through several projects. Here are two: Know-Hub and ICSMET. The main goal of the Know-Hub project is to build hubs as a link between higher education institution, the business environment, and the wider community. The main goal of the ICSMET project is to increase the competitiveness of micro, small, and medium enterprises with the help of digitalization. Through these two projects, conditions have been established to help and support local business in the areas of 3D printing, reverse engineering, and metrology. Students, assistants, and engineers from the local companies are introduced to the 3D printing, 3D scanners, and 3D scanning process through practical examples. The practical work of printing and scanning objects is done at the premises of the learning factory. Several 3D printers were procured at our faculty to the project Know-Hub, Stratasys F270, MarkerBot Methodix, Zortrax M200, and Automaker 2 Plus. In reverse engineering in general, you know about reverse engineering. In our role, reverse engineering can be defined as the process of duplicating existing component assembly or product without the aid of drawing, technical documentation, or computer model. In the learning factory, at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Computer Electrical Engineering, with the Know-Hub project, several tasks related to the topic of the reverse engineering were performed. From the ICSMET project, we got COM out of compact scan, which can see on this picture. Also, we have Geomagic from SolidWorks, and also we have GeoInspect. After that, we combine that free equipment.
Yes, there is some conference, and I don't know.
We combine that free equipment in our rapid prototyping reverse engineering process. And there are some application of 3D print, reverse engineering, and metrology. For our faculty, we develop this small product. It is tasked to generate a code model, original geometry design of metal couplings, with the intention of small series production for our needs on our faculty. Also, we produce this pool for local company Z. This task aimed to use reverse engineering to obtain the geometry of the pulley profile using a CAD model to make an equal part since the original, because this was damaged. Also, we have some example of part of plastic injection tool for a local company, Wellplast. The task was to generate 3D model of a part of a plastic injection tool since the original part was also damaged. For this company, Macom, we produced the dental spoons. The task was to create a CAD model and take documentation of dental spoons for taking dental impressions. In this moment, we developed a tool for produce this part. For company SIG, we had a small project The task aim was to create a new level with 3D printing technology using the process of reverse engineering because the previous was broken. Metrology applied on the milling cutter for the company Scooter. On this case, the task aim to determine the dimensions of cutters with the diameter feet 20, feet 12 to prepare accompanying documentation. Conclusion, the technology of rapid prototyping with 3D printing in combination with 3D scanner and appropriate software using reverse engineering can significantly speed up the path to the finished product, which is extremely important for relevant companies. On this way, we try to help the companies around us. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Didic, for this nice presentation. If there are any questions? Okay, no, then we would continue with the next presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can you please stop sharing the screen? Alexey Uspensky, I would invite you to share your experience and present your paper.
Yes, I hope you can hear me and see my screen.
Yes.
Make it full screen. So it's okay, yes?
Yes, now it's perfect.
So my name is Alexey Uspensky. I represent the Republican Center for Technology Transfer and will briefly introduce you the state of technology transfer in Belarus. Belarus is a country with a population of 9.5 million, and most research in Belarus is done in public research organizations. There are in total 451 public research organizations that employ 2,600 workers, so almost like Fraunhofer. 65% of them are researchers, 6.5% are technicians, and 28% are support personnel. State expenditure for research and development for many years remains below 0.5% of GDP, and with the goal to reach 1% in 4 years. And 0.5% is still too low for innovative development of a country, and such development is declared on political level. Each year, public research organizations develop more than 400 new products and technologies. International rankings, such as Global Innovation Index, is important for our policymakers, and positive trend in rankings is considered as indicator that Belarus on the right track in the sphere of innovations. In 2020, for example, Belarus was ranked 64th in Global Innovation Index, and these results are considered due to constant improvement of legislation in the field of technology transfer. The legislation in technology transfer regulates public funding of fundamental and applied research, transfer of technologies to state enterprises which receive developed technologies for free, and transfer technologies to mixed ownership and SMEs, which can be free and they should pay for them. Dissemination of information in the field of technology transfer, which are mostly scientific reports, establishment of technology transfer organizations, the criteria which organization can be considered technology transfer organizations, and IP rights ownership. The first problem is the funding. So the main customer of public research organizations is the government that allocates budget funds under R&D contracts in the frame of different state programs. The contract usually already included the state enterprise to adopt or commercialize developed technology or product. If the research contractor fails to develop the product or the state enterprise fails to commercialize in the given time frame, typically 3 years, then the contractor is obliged to return all allocated funds to the budget. And once the funds are returned to the budget, there is no way for contractor to get them, even if at some point later, another state enterprise adopts the results. So such contract conditions result in commercialization rate nearly 100%, but leave no room for breakthrough innovations. Science research organizations don't have the right to risk. The main legislative act governing IP rights on research results obtained with budget funds is Presidential Decree number 9059, which holds more power than the laws. And according to it, the research contractor could retain IP rights, but since there is no straight and simple way to put intangible assets into accounting, and the minimal selling price is equal to the cost of development, the research organizations have no interest claiming IP rights from the government. And as consequences, in Belarus, technologies are sold under R&D agreements, joint venture agreements, personnel exchange, and as know-how. There is basically no licensing practice in Belarus from public research organizations, except plant varieties. But with plant varieties, the license price is about $5,000. So basically nothing. And for same reason, we don't have startups. Republican Center for Technology Transfer, since its creation in 2003, recommends to authorities consolidate many related legislative acts that we have into so-called Belarusian Baydo Act, allow research organizations to restrict access to inventions if public disclosure could damage commercial interests, oblige research personnel engaged in technology transfer and administration of organizations to evaluate such activities, allow free of charge transfer of technologies to Belarusian SMEs, teach students on the subject of technology transfer, and stimulate creation of technology transfer organizations. Currently certified technology transfer organizations in Belarus don't license technologies, and so there is proposal to rebrand them as innovation centers. For example, Republican Center for Technology Transfer is not list certified technology transfer organizations. So this is the state of technology transfer in Belarus. I thank you for your attention, and if you have any interest in technology transfer in Belarus, you're welcome to visit our website, ISTT.by, where you can find additional information. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Yes, I have a question. Yes. Speaking. If I understand correctly, when SME or state enterprise receives technology, it also receives funding from the government. Is this correct?
SME or state enterprise receives technology, it also receives funding? No. SMEs are completely on different levels of state enterprises. Every state enterprise can receive any technology developed with budget funds for free.
Okay.
Any mixed form enterprise or SME need to buy the technology, and the minimal selling price is the price of development. So SMEs can buy technologies from the state. They can't allow invest, they first don't have the funds and they can't allow to pay for the development, for adoption of technology, big money.
Okay, great, thank you. Understood.
Okay, thank you for sharing your experience in Belarus with technology transfer. We have two more papers to be presented. So now I'd like to invite Livin Pal to present his paper.
Hi, Tomasz, do you hear me?
Yes, we can also
I
see
guess.
your screen.
Okay, great. Because I had some troubles with pinning some people on the. Okay, so I will be presenting the paper of our head, Dr. Spela-Stres. It's about European guiding principles for knowledge valorization and assessment of essential topics to be addressed. And now, in order to follow the efficiency of technology transfer, it's of course important to check the number of patent applications and number of license and R&D agreements conducted. But that simply is not enough. You can just imagine the worst case scenario in which you have been working for 8 hours a day in the technology transfer office for the whole year. But at the end, there would be no patents filed and no agreement signed. So how could you explain this to your boss? That is why it's extremely important to track all the activities related to the pipeline, from the preparation and protection to marketing and commercialization of intellectual property. And the key performance indicators for tracking the technology transfer activities become very handy in such situations. These indicators are the number of technology offers prepared, the number of interests expressed, and the number of offers sent to selected companies, and the number of received expressions of interests, and the number of signed non-disclosure agreements, and successful and unsuccessful negotiations, and so on. The way that knowledge transfer offices operate may differ slightly due to the differences of national knowledge transfer ecosystems. Nevertheless, there are some common points in the pipeline of all knowledge transfer offices, and these common points are presented here as key performance indicators. The key performance indicators are also very useful for doing the statistics and identifying the possible room for improving of each individual step within the technology transfer pipeline. For example, if the number of interests per certain technology offer was low, the reason is maybe that the offer was poorly prepared, or that the wrong potential partners were targeted, or simply that the technology is not interesting to the market. So the key performance indicators may be also used as a tool for tracking the quality of the work of the technology transfer offices. In addition to tracking the licensing activities, these key performance indicators were set also for tracking spin-out establishment activities and some soft activities such as consulting on access to financial sources and so on. And we believe that in addition to the general and common setup of key performance indicators at the level of knowledge transfer offices, there are also other topics to be addressed within the new recommendations. For example, operational issues. Every knowledge transfer office should have a set of operational principles, an honor code or a code of conduct as a basis for its operation. And accounting issues are also important because registering intellectual property as the intangible asset has to be done according to European accounting principles. And evaluation of intellectual property is also essential in state aid in collaborative projects. In other words, how to transfer the intellectual property is understood in the context of state aids. then the competition law to distort the market competition and achieve fairness, the technology offers should be published prior setting the contract with the specific entity. Synergies should be also looked for example, with the European Innovation Council or Enterprise Europe Network, and they should be looked for from operational, not political or networking point of view. In addition to patents, also registration of model trademarks, new plant sorts, and software should be encouraged. Copyright implications should be addressed as software is in fact part of the copyright legislation. So broader view on IPR is needed. Also a wider approach to science disciplines in terms of collaboration with social sciences and humanities, for example. The possible tension between IP protection and open science, particularly secret know-how, should be addressed in straightforward operational funnels. And the career progression of KTO professionals should be addressed. Agencies and ministries should be invited to discuss this issue. And finally, managing the financial return. There is a need on recommendation on how the public research organizations use the income from commercial activities. So in this context, we believe that the presented proposal of topics that needs to be addressed within new recommendations will be mutually beneficial for knowledge transfer offices and also all the actors of innovation ecosystem nationally and internationally. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Then for the last presentation, I will share my paper. Just a moment. So I work at the Center for Technology Transfer and Innovation, the JSI, and I will present an example of our support to research group of advanced material department in the field of antimicrobial material. In 2012, a PhD thesis of Maria Vukomanovic was published, and in her work, she and her colleagues discovered or invented a new antimicrobial material, and they found it valuable. And after discussion with our office, we together decided to file a patent application. And 6 years later, a European patent was granted. And here you can see the first claim. So this is a product claim about this novel material. And for those who have more knowledge about the intellectual property, you know that this is a more strong claim, and so the IP position was very strong. So what is it about? So this new material is based on hydroxyapatite template. So this black structure, and then you have gold particles on it, and the yellow stripes are the amino acids that can bind to bacteria and or virus and deactivate it. So in comparison with widely used silver, this material is more effective and also important, less toxic. We see here a comparison. So a good value proposition. And this material has a strong market potential. As we know, antibacterial material can be used in a wide variety of applications, from cosmetics, medical devices, paints, textile, and so on. So, but it hasn't been tested on none of these applications. So our job was to find concrete application and commercialize this material. The first step is finding suitable partners. This is very important in technology transfer. We heard today a question in the morning during the pitches. Have you started discussion with, for example, a corporate that produces a medical stand? So this is something very difficult, and also when finding industrial partners interested for invention is sometimes difficult, but we started early in this route. And the first step was to publish a technology offer in the Enterprise Europe network. We promoted the technology also on the exhibition. And after discussion, we got the feedback that there is an important regulation in Europe, so-called Biocidal product regulation, that has to be taken in account when entering the market with this material. And during the discussions, we also contacted a Hungarian company and realized that they would be interested to replace their silver that they use on the textile products with our novel material, and we started the project. So about this Biocidal product regulation, this is a regulation that it's obligatory for a company that wants to enter with a new antimicrobial material to really efficiently test it. So to test its antibacterial and other properties, as well as toxicity and ecotoxicity, according to very high standards. And this procedure is performed at the European Chemical Agency, but it can be very costly. I mean, normally it's very costly, a few million euros, and it lasts very long. So it's kind of stifles innovation and presents a big obstacle on the way to the market. So the mentioned project with the Hungarian textile producer Linover was a half-year project that took place last year and this year. And together with the Portuguese Textile Institute, we developed a technology how to apply this material on the textile. So there are some factors that needed to be taken into account. And this was kind of proof of concept project, a small one, but an important step in our further engagement towards the market. So 2 weeks ago, we submitted a bigger project, Horizon Europe project, and we built a bigger consortium out of 12 partners. And this 6 million projects was submitted, and its goals are to really test all these laboratory tests according to Biocidal product regulation, show other antimicrobial demonstrators beside the textile, and scale up the nanogold composite production process. At the moment, it still can be produced on low quantities, so a few grams. So thank you for your attention. Are there any questions? Okay, here no questions. So we will close.